Well, everyone's least favorite, or who knows, maybe favorite cruiser has officially moved to Tier 7. So, what's the verdict? Is she good enough to play with the big boys, or is she finally balanced? Let's go check it out. This would have to be the most controversial subject in Legends at the moment, aside from maybe will to rebuild. But let's cover all of the general information, compare her stats-wise to the other Tier 7 cruisers now, and finally I'll end with my opinion about the whole ordeal, and you can choose to hear that or not. For the record, if you're watching this video in August 2022, you still have a chance to return the Weimar for 12,500 doubloons, get your money back. The link for that is in the description below. You can go take care of that if you're dissatisfied with your purchase. Alright, so my build for this ship I thought we could cover for those of you who are interested. It hasn't changed, really, in the whole time I've used her. Aiming systems, prop, and rudder, and my go-to commander is, as always, Azur Lane Hipper. If you're free to play, there is nothing wrong with using Karl von Muller and just kind of focusing on damage output. Luton's Agile build, I've tried it in the past, it was a lot of fun, but I think mostly that was viable because you were facing a lot of Tier 5s and Tier 6s and bullying them, basically. Now at Tier 7, I don't think an agility build is going to work for the Weimar, where it's a lot more dangerous out here, let's say that. Augustine Ragerwald, if you had him, it's another great commander and can put the AP performance over the top with her. Okay, so shards, B-spawn. If you're in a division, you're going to spawn in the middle of the map every time. So here we are. We did a little circle out to the side to figure out where the mid-spawn BBs were going to go opposite of us. And it seems like they've left the destroyer alone in middle cap, so we're going to push up there and try to kill him. Definitely playing more cautious in Weimar now, more so than we used to. Instead of getting shot at by things like New Mexico's or Colorado's, you're going to be seeing salvos coming in from Iowa's, Maine, the Savetsky. So Weimar's world is a lot more dangerous now, and it really shows that you only have 32,000 HP at Tier 7, and that's going to bring us to our first statistic. Weimar comes in with the lowest health points of any Tier 7 cruiser currently in the game. She did get 2 heals. So when she moved up, 5,000 apiece, they're basically the worst heals at the tier. Look like they're Amalfi heals. Armor-wise, Weimar, same old Weimar. She's got a York hull, and that's not terrible as Tier 6 cruisers go. Actually, it was pretty decent there, but now at Tier 7, she's about the least armored cruiser at the tier, tying in a lot of ways with the Belfast 43, which of course everyone and their mother cried foul about, complaining how could Wargaming bring a Tier 6 cruiser, Belfast, to Tier 7, Belfast 43, with such a weak armor scheme. Weimar has an identical 16mm bow as Belfast 43. It can still deflect 203mm guns or just heavy cruiser guns like from the Baltimore, but anything larger than that really is going to pierce the front of your ship. You do have a little turtleback armor scheme, but mostly with the armor, the way it is, you're going to be relegated to fighting from cover. Weimar is absolutely a glass cannon. She still has the fastest reload of all of the light cruisers at Tier 7. It's 5 seconds base, and we're going to compare a lot of this to the Mainz. Mainz is 6 seconds based. Of all of my current Tier 7 builds, Weimar places 3rd placed overall for high explosive damage output, behind the Suzuya, behind the Cleveland. She is 1st place in armor piercing DPM at Tier 7, barely beating the Mainz by about 900 damage. So the potential to do damage in Weimar hasn't changed. It's still pretty awesome. The AP DPM, I would point out, while that number is indeed massive, it's kind of a situational thing and can be negated by people who are smart, people who don't give you broadside bow and battleships, and well-angled targets can completely reduce that giant AP DPM number to meaninglessness. Now, the HE shells, they're great because they have German quarter pin, and that's going to help them not shatter as much as some of the other nations. Cleveland and Suzuya, they're going to be shattering a lot more. And of course, to get that same kind of penetration, or not even as good, you would have to take IFHE in the legendary slot for your American commanders. And that is going to cut the fire chance in half and reduce some of the HE shell damage. So that is nice about the HE shells. They do have low alpha, of course, and a low fire chance. Weimar still has a pretty decent torpedo armament for tier 7 cruisers, just like the Hipper and the Prince Eugen. 6 on each side is going to be decent for brawling situations, which you're probably not going to be doing a lot of. The bigger brothers, Hipper, Prince Eugen, they have a lot more robust armor schemes, and they can actually survive situations like that where Weimar cannot, but it is handy if someone is pushing you around an island or a kind of a brown pants oh crap moment, then you have them. Mainz is again better, 8 torpedoes on each side. She again outclasses the Weimar. The anti-aircraft capabilities. Well, now you're going to be fighting a lot more robust aircraft carriers at tier 7. You're no longer going to see those tier 5s. So Parsifals, Saipans, Pobeddas, rather than Rangers, Wessers, and Furious. Weimar arguably has the worst AA of any tier 7 cruiser. The max stock firing range, 3.5 kilometers. That's the shortest range at the tier. And to make it worse, Weimar has the 3rd lowest AA DPS at the tier. Only Atago and Suzuya have lower damage output, but they can at least fire 5 kilometers at planes, not just 3.5. So that is a pretty big handicap at this tier where there are some really powerful carriers. The Mainz, again, in this area, is better. She has a longer range by a kilometer and 357 AA damage per second. That's nearly the best at the tier. Just behind Cleveland and Montpellier, the Mainz is a AA monster. Finally, moving on to the maneuverability. Speed-wise, Weimar is the slowest tier 7 cruiser. Top speed 31 knots. That's dead last. She does have the tightest turning circle, which is cool, and a decent rudder shift. Stock 8.8 seconds, that's a little better than the Mainz, so one of the few areas she out-edges her, I guess we could say, big brother, big sister. Point for point, though. Mainz is better in almost every way. Survivability-wise, a Hipper hull with much more armor. While it's not 27 millimeters, it's 25 mostly. She does have a great 40mm icebreaker for people who aren't paying attention. I had a recent video where we got 8 kills in the Mainz, and I went back and watched, and it looks like I perfectly tanked a Georgia Salvo on the bow and didn't die because of that icebreaker. She has 10k more health stock, and better hills that are going to give her a higher effective health. She has 0.6 of a kilometer better stock gun range, so she can fire farther than the Weimar. She has better AA and a better top speed. Weimar wins with the turn circle, like we mentioned, the rudder shift. She has lower detectability and a higher DPM, just barely though. As mentioned before on this channel, for those of you that might remember, the Mainz has faster shells. They fire with a more flat trajectory, so it helps you aim easier at moving targets. Earlier, there was a DD sailing away from me. I couldn't hit him, a skill issue, but it's difficult to pull off some of these long-range shots with the Weimar and get destroyers out of the game, although we'll get another chance at that Shimakaze coming up pretty soon. Again, looking at Mainz versus Weimar, the stock damage numbers make Weimar look like she has way better damage output until you go into the 4th slot on the Mainz and put the main battery mod 3 in slot 4, something Weimar does not have access to. This is the only tier 7 ship in the game without a 4th module slot. Had she got the additional 12-second buff here for MBM3, or hey, maybe you wanted to take range or something, that's cool, but the reload, it would have got this build down to about 4.2 seconds, which is pretty fast. That would have given her a little more edge over the Mainz and damage output, but now as it is, they really essentially do the same amount of damage. And Mainz is just a much more robust cruiser with way more survivability. After all, you cannot deal damage if you're dead. I think it essentially makes Weimar redundant at tier 7 now. If you have both ships, I'm not sure there would be a reason to play the Weimar over the Mainz. Maybe because you could lob shells a little better over islands with your slower shells. But other than that, I mean, the Mainz is just better. It's no secret that the Weimar was overpowered as a tier 6 cruiser. You know, stats-wise and from a gameplay perspective, she mopped the floors with other ships. I think as win rate and things went, she was the best ship at tier 6, easily. So something had to be done with the situation, sure. I guess my question, it's really a question that doesn't matter anymore, I suppose. Why was she released into the game with a 5-second base reload to begin with, while on PC she had an 8-second reload? I mean, aren't there super testers that trial run this stuff? Did no one think, wow, this is very strong, she's performing pretty well? Again, I guess it doesn't matter, but it's just something that I can't seem to shake every time I think about the Weimar. Just why? Anyways, though, she is at tier 7 now. That's where she is. And again, if you were unhappy with that, Wargaming is currently offering to buy the Weimar back. You have until August 14th. You can exchange it for 12,500 doubloons by filling out a support ticket. So check that link below in the description if that is something that you would like to do. Now, of course, I never advocate selling ships. Generally, I think they can be useful in completing bureau missions and stuff like that, but also at this point, like mentioned, I doubt I would just play her anymore since I know I can get more performance out of Mainz. I suppose if you wanted to keep her, you could treat it as having a black version of a ship, you know, a different skinned ship, and you could run different builds. Maybe do a pure DPM build on Weimar with Muller, Reigerwald, and Mimbelli, have kind of a meme reload build, basically an island camper, and then leave your Mainz as a more normal cruiser. I don't know, just a thought. I would also point out, maybe in the future, if they see that Weimar isn't performing that great, maybe she would get a buff. Maybe. I think this is a very small chance because I've heard from the community managers already that she's performing well enough. I think their exact quote was, she's doing good, but she has some competition now. So, I mean, I think a ship in this game really needs to be pretty bad, kind of on the lower edge of the winning scale to get buffed. But hey, again, I don't know. We'll see. I would also point out one more thing. She enjoys the economy changes of tier 7 premium ship now. It's a 55% buff to credit earning, so she could help you rake in the silver if you have her. Again, so can Mainz. I think she's going to be a great ship for those that did not get the Mainz in the campaign. You know, she's still going to do well at tier 7 and be fine. But overall, I would just play the other ship. It's better. So, what are your guys' thoughts on this whole debacle? Do you think Wargaming released a busted ship, sold a ton of them to eager players, and then nerfed the hell out of it? Or was it an honest mistake? I'm curious to hear from you guys. Keep in mind, of course, I think everyone is entitled to their own opinion, so keep it civil. There should always be room for open debate and discussion, and I want this channel to be a safe place for that. Obviously, I didn't intend to pour gas on the fire or anything like that. I think just wanted to cover this as a tier 7 ship, and my opinion now is that I would rather play the Mainz. Anyways, let me know in the comment section down below. I would love to hear from you. Now, I chose this game in the background because it was a close one, an interesting one, I think. As you can see, we chose not to skirt around the island up there past sea to kill the Graf Zeppelin. Should I have? I don't know. My thought process was that I would start sailing to B, try to contest this cap, stop them from accruing points, and that maybe the Graf would come out behind me and perhaps I could just turn around and kill him on my way to B. Of course, the Graf did not. He stayed behind the island, so it didn't quite work out that way. But anyways, there's only about a minute left, so if I could just stay alive and being on B cap, stopping their points from accruing, we should win the game. Was it the best decision? We're going to find out. The decision-making process, I think, is really one of the biggest parts of Legends that I think that our player base could improve on. So many games get thrown by poor decisions, you know, chasing red ships to the edge of the map, not playing the objectives, all of that stuff. And hey, I mean, we're all guilty of it from time to time. I suppose I would just advocate to always keep checking your HUD. So, you know, see what the points are at, keep watching the map, and try to figure out what the reds are going to do. So we're hiding from the Z46 so that he can't shoot me, and hopefully going to use the AP to kill this rune before he can kill me. Man, how great would it have been to not eat that one Shima Torp earlier. Also, hindsight's 20/20, but seeing how close it came down to my health here, I probably should have actually damage conned that one fire that the Z set on me when I sailed up. So just 10 seconds left if I can just hold on. But alas, the one last salvo from the rune took me out of the match. So it was a close one, but that's that. Well, anyways, guys, that's my take on the Tier 7 Weimar, and again, I would love to hear from you. Be sure to subscribe to the channel for future videos, and I'll catch you in the next one. See ya.